Hi guys, it's Matt Harper-Penman here. The reason why I'm actually jumping on this video is because I'm speaking to investors every single day, and it is quite frightening just how many people don't actually realise some of the things that are going on right now out there in the wider world. This video is specifically talking about the invisible tax that 99% of investors are completely blindsided to. So for you guys to get the most value, I've got my notes here. I've got some slides I want to go through with you. So we're going to jump in and hope you get a lot of value from this. And hopefully this shows you just quite how much of the stuff is going on there, which a lot of people don't really realise is happening right now. So, okay, let's jump in. So why am I doing this video? I am extremely passionate about this subject because, like I say, so many people out there are, fearful of other things, which in my mind are not as damaging as this one thing that I'm going to be speaking to you about today. I talk to investors, they're, sitting on their hands at the moment, some of them looking at me and saying, I'm not going to be doing anything until, COVID-19 has passed and lockdowns have passed, etc. But what I don't realise is there's something that is absolutely more devastating, more damaging, and hitting our economy right now, and they don't even realise it because it is something that can't be seen and something that isn't being felt right now. It has a lag effect, which I will talk about during the video. And I hope this really helps you to understand what is happening and why it's such a dangerous thing. If you don't understand it, don't arm yourself with the knowledge and don't arm yourself correctly to be able to protect yourself against it. Okay. So what am I talking about? I am talking about quantitative easing, and what that is quite simply put, it is the printing of currency. Okay, so governments all around the world print money, into infinity, and the reason why they can do that is it's not backed against anything that has a finite measure. Something like gold, there's only a certain number of gold in the world, and that is it. So whereas with a currency, and it's called a fiat currency, you can print to infinity. And when you print more money, what that does is it actually devalues the value of that currency. And the reason is simple, basic, supply and demand, basic economics. When there's more supply of something, the value of that good, service, currency devalues. Okay, and we'll use some actually worked examples during the video, which will really, shine the light on the devastating effect that this has. Okay, governments will tell you that they're doing quantitative easing to stimulate the economy, to allow people to spend more. But actually it has an inverse effect when there's fear in the market, like COVID-19, for example, and we'll discuss that as well. There's been 600 plus fiat currencies throughout the history of money, and every single one of them has failed and gone to a value of zero. So that gives you a very good telltale sign about the rules and history of a currency, that it's a ticking time bomb, if you like, that it's going to be going to zero at one time. Just think about a couple of examples, the German Weimar back in the First World War, where you would be taking a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a loaf of bread. Think about Zimbabwe, where you've got, dollars worth millions of dollars, Zimbabwe dollars. Those are examples of a hyperinflated currency really devalued, okay? And that's the way we're heading with our currency, with the US dollar, with the UK pound. That is the way that we are heading if we carry on what we're doing. Okay. So in 2020, the UK printed a further £250 billion in currency. Okay, that increased us to a total of 895 billion of printed currency. Just to bring that into perspective, you know, that is absolutely astronomical figures we're talking about here. And this chart shows exactly that. So in 2009, we only had 200 billion pounds of printed currency in circulation. And now in 2020, we are at 895 billion. And if you look at the number when it was at March, was 645 billion pounds, and then grew to 895 billion pounds by the end of 2020. So that's where our 250 billion came from. And that was for things like the bounce back loans, the furlough schemes. All of these things were the printed of money, and that money doesn't just, you know, it comes, it's just made out of thin air. You know, it's not, you know, bought from somewhere or anything like that. It's just simply made up, added to the supply of money. So the pound notes that me and you have got in our pockets have significantly devalued for that. You know, somebody has to pay for these furlough schemes, for these, you know, government bounce back loans. Somebody has to pay for it. And it's the actual great British public which are paying for it in an invisible way. You don't see it because it has a lag effect. And I'll explain that as we dig deeper into this topic, okay? So that 250 billion pounds of increased currency supply represents a 38.7% increase in our supply of currency in the UK. That is huge. That's over a third of our currency supply printed within 1 year. And one thing, you know, a lot of people might say to me is, well, what does that have an effect on me? You know, surely that's not going to affect me. Well, let me tell you, that 38% has actually devalued our currency by 38%. Not only has it increased our supply, it's also devalued our currency by 38%. Okay, so let's put that in perspective. So let's take an example of £100,000. You know, a lot of our clients that we work with have £100,000 of workable capital spend, but let's use that as an example of what we're looking at. Okay, so £100,000, what is 38.78% less purchasing power due to this quantitative easing? That is £72,066.87. So that £100,000 you've got in your bank, realistically, over the time to come, is going to have a purchasing power of £72,066.87 if you leave it in the bank. Okay, like I said before, there's a lag effect. So this hasn't quite hit that 72,000, but it is going to happen. It is a fact. You know, the supply has grown, meaning the value of the currency has decreased, but we will see that as I explain further as we go through. So you might be thinking, Matt, how is this calculated? How did you get to that figure of 72,000? So let me explain. So £100,000, the way you will calculate this is you divide it by the 138.76. So 100,000 divided by 138.76%, that will give you the figure of 72,066. And that is quite frightening. You know, that means that that £100,000 has devalued by £38,780 just because of quantitative easing. And we didn't have a say about it. The government just did it without anybody's say so, anybody's approval. It's just a cost that you just do not see. And the reason why people are not up in arms about it, like I said a little bit earlier, is that the pain is not instant. So you don't see it now. You see it over a lag period. And we'll see that as we go through. Okay, so now think about this. That devaluation of currency is effectively the same as this situation I'm about to show you happening. Okay, so this is like somebody knocking on your door and taking off of you £106 per day, every single day for a year, okay? £745 a week. Somebody knocking on your door and taking £745 off you every week. £3,231 per month. And for most families, you know, that I speak to, that is sometimes more than their actual outgoing expense, but you're getting that through quantitative easing, and it is an invisible expense, but it's such a costly one. And of course, we already know that it is £38,780 in a year that we're losing in value of currency. So when you think about it like that, that is when it starts to hit home, and it is very much reality. You know, if you think about it, somebody was come to your door, knock on your door, and take that amount of money that we just showed there off of you every day. That's a game changer. And that's when, you know, when I'm talking to people on the phone and, you know, on Zoom calls, this is when the light bulb moment starts to happen. They're like, right, I need to actually do something to stop this happening. Okay. So, and this, by the way, is only been looking at the UK market. The US last year alone printed $3 trillion, which was up from 4.17 trillion to 7.17 trillion. So that is an absolutely flabbergasting amount, if I'm quite honest with you, in comparison to what we've done. And you've just seen the exact effects that I explained to you on the UK British pound. So just imagine the heightened, you know, effects that's going to have with the US dollar. And the bad news is that pretty much every currency in the world is pegged to the US dollar. It goes through the US dollar in some way. So that's the bad news, because that effect is a lot more amplified. The UK is going for its own amplification of devaluing the currency. So you can really see the problem we have on our hands here is not just in the UK, it's actually globally as a problem. And it is a ticking time bomb. It is going to happen, you know, because we can't just keep devaluing that currency. That currency will become worthless at some point and will go to zero, like the 600 other currencies have in the past. Okay, so now I've said that, it's a lot to take in. I just want you to think about that for just a second. UK, 250 billion in printed cash. That has a 38.76% devaluation on the currency. Think about how much 3 trillion in 1 year of printed currency in America, in the USA, will do to the economy, and not just their economy, the world's economy. So that's something really big food for thought for people out there. Okay. Right. So I've been banging on about this lag effect for most of the video. Okay. But we're now going to talk about exactly what that means. All right. So the lag effect is, very simply put, means that we do not see the effect of the problem straight away. So we do not feel instant pain. And that's the reason why it is so dangerous. People are sleepwalking out there without proper knowledge of this subject. And this is the real reason I wanted to do this video, is to educate my own network, and hopefully we can share it out there to the wider public and also educate them as well, because we can do things to protect ourselves, and we'll talk about that, you know, in a short while. So with the lag effect, we don't see pain straight away. Our bank balances do not change. So you may think, Matt, but you said that the value of 100,000 actually goes to 72,000. Well, actually, I said the purchasing power of 100,000 goes down. And that's the reason why our bank balances remain the same. We all feel very comfortable because our bank balance hasn't gone down, but actually the prices of goods, services have gone up. And that's the difference. And when they do go up, which I'll explain when they will very shortly, that is when we'll start to see the real pain, and it will be too late at that point to do anything about it, okay? When there's fear in the marketplace, people hold on to cash. So you've got the government stimulus, like I mentioned earlier. The reason why they print money is what they say, it's on the government website, you can check this out, the Bank of England website, it says it there, in black and white. We print money to stimulate the economy, to encourage spending in the market, okay? That's not quite how it works. The market works completely on confidence, okay? So the reason why currency has a value is people's confidence in it. When people are spending more, value goes up. When people are spending less, it goes down, okay? So when there's an event or a moment in time where there's fear in the marketplace, such as right now, COVID-19 is around us, then people do not spend as frivolously as they once did. They're not out there buying their TVs, buying their holidays. They are holding on to that cash because they are scared, okay? They are scared that they may lose their job, so they may lose their income, and they've got bills to pay, they've got their family to feed. So what actually happens is the government print all of this money and then people hold on to it. So if people were going to go out there and spend, you'd see this effect of the devaluation of currency a lot quicker. But people are just holding on to that cash as rainy day money, protection, or what they think is protection. And then when the confidence come back, vaccines have been rolled out, we're through this COVID-19 pandemic world problem, you're going to see people out there spending a lot more, casually, should we say, and that's when the problem's going to start to appear and the cracks are going to show. So this is, one of the reasons why there's a lag effect in there. Another thing is price controls. So price controls on, goods and services, and even wage price controls like minimum wage. So a price control is either where the government sets in standards like minimum prices or maximum prices. So they have a control on the economics of a industry or a sector, let's say. So when that happens, that is completely counterproductive against a free market. A free market is, very simply put, the price of what somebody is willing to pay for something else, a good or service. Okay, when the government set price controls, that gets rid of a free market, and that really will sort of hinder the effects of which is happening, which would naturally occur. Some people out there would say that we were better off just to not put any stimulus out there and let there be a hard sort of period of time, but the market would correct itself and we'd be back on there. Other people say different, but a price control is another reason why we are seeing this lag effect. It is delaying the effect of the actual devaluation of currency. Not only that as well, the stock market is being propped up by the US government as well. So that's a really big thing to go into, and I'll talk about that on other videos as well that we do. Okay. So when we will see the true effects of this quantitative easing is essentially when the confidence comes back into the marketplace, when people feel like, okay, don't need to hold on to all this money as much anymore. I can actually be a little bit more relaxed with my spending patterns and habits. That's when we're going to see a sharp increase in goods and services. And that will be the true 38% rise in goods and services, and equally the devaluation of the British pound. Okay, so where does this lead us to, and why did I actually do this video? So what can we do and what should we do to protect ourselves, to move forward? Well, there's plenty of things that we can do. And what I don't want you to think is that I'm saying every bit of cash that you have, get it into investments and, other things that are going to earn you money. I'm not saying that. What I'm actually saying is put aside a 3 to 6 month burn rate. And what a burn rate is 3 to 6 months of your expenses, your living expenses. So if you lost your income now, put aside 3 to 6 months of expenses so you can get through that period of time while you look for another source of income and whatever that may be. So have that set aside. However, anything surplus to that, you want to be investing. But before investing in anything, you really do need to arm yourself with knowledge. And I really do hope this video is really opening your eyes to what is happening to your cash. It is rotting in the bank, to put it very politely. If you said to me, Matt, what is one of your biggest fears? It is having too much surplus of cash in the bank. I want to have my cash deployed all of the time into the right investments. And I'll tell you exactly what I do in just a moment once we've gone through these points here. Like I say, I always say everybody has their own circumstances, but I can only tell you what I do. And I'd love to hear from you guys what you think as well. But let's carry on for a moment on this. And like I was just saying there, you want to arm yourself with knowledge. Knowledge unlocks the power to be able to have choice and to be making an informed decision for the best route forward for yourself and your family. So I always think arming yourself with knowledge is so important. I listen to people on YouTube. I also, consume books, lots and lots of books, go to events when obviously we can and we're not in lockdown. All of those things are so important that you can be doing right now. Especially the virtual stuff while we're in a lockdown is very, very important. Like I said earlier, once you have that knowledge, then make the step to get that surplus cash invested. The worst thing you can be doing is standing still and doing nothing. And that's probably the catalyst for me making this video. The quite frightening amount of people that I speak to that are just sitting on the fence waiting for something to happen. But when that something happens, it's too late. And that is the issue that you've got. You need to be proactive in everything you do. The proactive ones are the winners. Early bird catches the worm. Old saying, but such a true principle. And I really do believe that, you need to be proactive in your investing career. Otherwise, you're going to be too late to the party, not make the correct returns and putting yourself in too much risk. And that's the honest truth. So, like I've said, I've given you a lot of, information. I really do hope it's helpful and you've sort of learned something on the video. But the most important thing you can do, if you take anything away from this, is do something. Invest in property, invest in precious metals, perhaps. Invest in things that you understand, which is why I said get some knowledge on the subjects. For me, like I said to you earlier, I am more heavily invested in property. I've been in property for, the last 10 years. I've done over 1,000 transactions in property. So I know that asset class very well. So my portfolio is invested mainly in property, but I do have hedges such as gold and silver, which, are very, very important as well. I'm not as experienced in those areas, but I've done a lot of research into those areas. I listen to people out there like Mike Maloney, who has a fantastic YouTube channel, and I would, really encourage you to go over there and have a look at his stuff, because he is phenomenal at what he's does, and he's rarely wrong. He's very, very analytical. and has the right advisors around him too. So I recommend that. But essentially, property. Why would I invest most of my portfolio into property? It has stood the test of time. It has been around for hundreds of years as a true tradable commodity. And what do I mean by true tradable commodity? When these currencies go to zero, everybody still needs a roof over their head. So it doesn't matter what currency, whether it be barter, whether it be pounds, dollars, whatever it is, cryptocurrency potentially in the future, whatever it is, a property has a value because it fills a intrinsic, explicit need for somebody to be able to have shelter, and provide for themselves. So property is a true commodity, a tradable commodity. Now, historically, they've gone up in price. So the National House Price Index was first recorded in 1952. Property's obviously been around a lot longer than that, but the first, records were kept 1952 to now we're in 2021. So you're talking 70 years of, practical history. And you can use that as really solid data to look at what is property going to do in the future. Yes, okay, there's going to be corrections along the way, as in any healthy market, but property is a long-term strategy. So that's a very, very good indication for where property is going to be going in the future. And I'll show you a graph of that in just a second. Now, one of the most important things that a property will do is produce a monthly cash flow. So it will chuck off a passive income monthly, depending on your strategy. Some strategies are more passive than others. Of course, there's very high yielding strategies, but generally they're a lot less passive than, say, a smaller yielding buy-to-let. But they both have pros and cons in terms of, having both. And I would really advocate having a balanced portfolio across them, having some high yielding, but then also having some very solid, foundational properties in your portfolio that have really, good yield in terms of solid yield, but also very good capital growth prospects. And those properties generally tend to be city centre properties where there is a lot of work and population growth. Okay. And you may think it is a funny one, but property cannot be physically lost. And that is a really important part. You can't just go and pick up a property and take it somewhere else. So, that's a really, really important part of property. Like jewelry, for example, higher value, but easily stolen. Watches, same thing. And stocks and shares have a lot of volatility, as you're probably seeing in the market right now, as cryptocurrency. Okay. Now, here's the graph that I said to you before. The graph shows us back in 1952 all the way to 2019 on the data. But essentially, it shows a long-term graph of growth, essentially. Okay. So if you hold property over the longer term, history says that, it's going to be going up. Okay. So my question to you is, where else can you go? If your money is in the bank and it is devaluing at a rate of knots, frightening rate of knots, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit there and just let that happen? Or are you going to maybe educate yourselves and get yourselves invested somewhere where you're not only not going to lose, you're also going to make some gains as well? And that's one thing I'd really, ask the question of, what are you going to do? Because, too many people out there are sitting, on cash thinking that's the right thing to do, but they're actually sitting on a ticking time bomb. And, that's the real reason I want to do this video, is just to, share that, knowledge and share that, experience that I know is happening out there right now, and also arm people with the correct, key facts, if you like, to protect themselves and their families. What a lot of investors I speak to do, are doing investments because they want to provide for their family and create a better life for themselves. Well, this is probably one of the most important pieces of information that you need to know, to sort of protect yourselves out there in the marketplace. So I hope you enjoyed the video. It's been a real pleasure sharing the information with you. If you want a copy of my slides, I'm more than happy to share them with you. If you just want to reach out to me on whichever social platform, we are seeing each other on, it could be LinkedIn, could be Facebook or Instagram or YouTube even, and just reach out to me. More than happy to share it with you. And also, if you want a wider conversation about the subject, then, please do get in touch and I'll be more than happy to have a chat. All right, guys. Well, I'll see you on the next video.